it's a song that I have heard in my life so many freaking times, but even though I never get tired of it. That's something that has to be said. But it always surprises me how well crafted the entirety of the track is. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going back to Iron Maiden, as you know, one of my favorite bands ever in the history of the entire world, and we're gonna be coming back to one of their most popular songs ever. This is The Trooper from the album Peace of Mind. And a spoiler alert, of course, I happen to be a huge fanboy for the band, so this is gonna be a highly positive review. So if this is your jam, let's rock and roll. But before we go, if this is your first time channel, I welcome you because in here we analyze the music that we love from the perspective of an active musician and professional music producer, using language that everybody can understand in a way to expand our knowledge when it comes to music production, songwriting, and music appreciation. So if this is your jam, let's rock and roll. Here we go. So here we go, girls and boys. The Trooper by Iron Maiden.
You fire musket, but I'll run you through. So when you're waiting for the next attack, you better stand, there's no turning back. The fuel sounds, the charge begins. But on this battlefield, no one wins. The smell of ice and smoke and horse's breath is a virgin into sudden death.
This song is simply badass. Ever since I listened to it when I was a kid, I couldn't stop loving it. One of the reasons why I like it so much, it's the great use of the harmony between the guitars. It was one of the first times that I ever heard such an ensemble in a rock context, of course. And yeah, of course, we're talking about me being somewhat around 12 years old of age, and this song truly took me by surprise because up until this point, I already was quite familiar with the concept of heavy metal because I liked Metallica. I already got introduced to Metallica first. And then I discovered Iron Maiden. And god damn it, it blew me away. I like it better. And I still think I do like them better over Metallica. I'm still a huge Metallica fan. But Iron Maiden, and particularly this track, this is the song that introduced me not to the band, because I first listened to Aces High, which I still think is a better song than this one, but that's a matter of opinion, and please let me know what you think about that hot take. But this one in particular, I find it to be not only iconic, and for those of you who know me, I don't like to use those kind of words because they're kind of cringe now, they're being overused, but this track is quintessential Iron Maiden in every single regard. The drums are fast-paced and fun. Every feel makes sense, and it's something memorable. You're gonna even do the air drumming every time some of those feels kicked in. The bass, it's prominent as on every Iron Maiden track, but it's not that loud. I think this is one of their best mixes ever. More on that once we hit the mixing stage or the mix analysis of this video. But also the harmonies. The guitar doing the harmony, the guitars doing the harmony, the harmonies during those beautiful passages that are so Iron Maiden sounding. It's so cool, and also the galloping guitar during the chorus, the verses. It's everything about this song. It's screaming Iron Maiden to you. No wonder why this album is regarded as one of their best. And this track also features the fantastic lyrics about a particular war. Please remind me which war it's inspired by. Because one of the things that I learned about Iron Maiden later on, because I never pay attention to lyrics, is that a good chunk of their music or their lyrics is based on historical events. How badass that is. So many people have learned history through Iron Maiden. That's so freaking awesome. Now, what do you think about the guitar tone? I think it's the best they ever got, in my opinion. Because even though this is, I just said that in my particular perspective, I prefer the use of chorus on later albums. For example, somewhere in time, uh, because it's a little bit more on the progressive rock aspect. The album is also a little bit more progressive rock influenced. But when it comes to the core sound of the guitar tone for Iron Maiden, I think you got the most seminal of them all in this record. And this particular track represents the sound and the tone properly. So cool. Now, before I press play once again, I want you to pay attention quite a lot to the sound of the drums. Because I want you to tell me what you think about them. Because they are very, very punchy, but not as prominent. Don't you think? Pay attention to that point that I just made, and also I would like to hear your opinion once we come back. Okay, of course, in the comments. Here we go. Let's keep rocking.
The horses with the theory bring to run. The manual of the Russian guns. And as we race towards the human wall, the screams of pain as my gunways fall. We hurl our bodies that lay on the ground. And the Russians fire another round. We get so near yet so far away. We will live to fight another day.
That's the very definition of glorious. When I have had the chance to see them live, when they finish off that instrumental section and they hit back or they come back to the main melody of the track, it's amazing. It's simply fantastic. I'm running out of words on what to say. It's so freaking good. Remind me and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Adrian Smith, the one who plays the first part of the solo. He's so freaking good, so tasteful, so inspired, kind of Gilmore-ish to a certain degree, Pink Floyd inspired, and that's one of the traits of Adrian Smith's guitar playing. Fantastic, one of my best, one of my favorite guitar players ever, for real. Wow, the freaking solo is so good. It's a song that I have heard in my life so many freaking times, but even though I never get tired of it. That's something that has to be said. But it always surprises me how well crafted the entirety of the track is. It's simply fun, energetic, powerful, in your face, intelligent. It's basically the truest definition of what Iron Maiden music sounds like, at least to me. What do you think about the hot take as well? Now, how could I forget mentioning Bruce Dickinson's vocals in this track? Oof. Full of energy. In my opinion, he got better with time. He got a much more precise and he developed a better technique. But in this track, that raw, fierce, kind of reckless sound to his voice, it's so full of energy and passion that makes the singing so badass. I want you to pay attention once again, of course, later on when I press the track, when I press play once again, and pay attention to the sound of his vocals because he has some effects going on. One of them is delay, and he's, if I am correct, being affected by a particular kind of delay, which is known as tape delay. It sounds like this: delay, 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 delay. And as you could hear, each of the repetitions of delay, because let me explain, delay stands for a way for us to recreate or repeat a signal through artificial methods. That's why it's delayed, because it's a delayed signal, but it's also repeated through time. What makes this particular delay circuit interesting and different from digital delay is the fact that a tape delay tends to be darker in sound, which in not as and in less esoteric terms, it stands for this. As you can hear right now, my voice is darker sounding because I removed the high end of it, the higher end of the spectrum. And those delays tend to have this darker tone to it, and also a little bit of a modulation effect that takes place and affects each of those repetitions one more after the other, creating a much more vibey sound. And what modulation is? Right now, I am applying a modulation effect, which is known as chorus. And as you can tell, my voice sounds a little bit wishy-washy. That's what modulation does, okay? And pay attention to the sound of his vocals, and you're gonna find that particular effect being applied to them. Also, there is a little bit of reverb, which is the artificial method we use to recreate the sense of space. And you can hear right now, the sound of reverb is like this, reverb, okay? And it's also been applied to the rest of the instrumentation, in particularly the drums. Now, I'm going to talk about the mix itself because, it's, as I stated before, it's so freaking good. And I think it's their best they ever got when it comes to this era of Iron Maiden music. Over here, some boys, we got Decibel, which is the tool that we use to analyze music through the use of a visual medium. And in here, we got the first section of our analyzer, which is the frequency range analyzer. This is exposing to us how loud each of the frequencies that corresponds and represent the range of hearing that we human beings allegedly have access to, which goes from 20 hertz, the lowest point, to 20,000 hertz, the highest point we can hear as human beings. And this white line represents how loud each of the frequencies within that spectrum were while the track was playing. And you can see here that, yeah, we don't have a prominent low end, but it's actually quite juicy, considering that this album is from that particular period of time. And we got a much more juicy low end than usual. Why? Or why am I putting so much emphasis on this? This mix and Iron Maiden, when it comes to their studio work, is renowned for having a little bit too prominent bass sound. Why? Because Steve Harris, the bass player of the band, is in certain aspects, if not every aspect of the band leader. And I know that Bruce Dickinson is the face and every blah, blah, blah. Yes, but when it comes to composition and even producing the albums, I think he has the strongest of voices. And it shows, because most of their music has a very prominent bass sound. It's a little bit louder than normally is, particularly considering that this comes from this particular era of time during the 80s. And we got a juicy sounding bass, but also the drums are super punchy. I love how they sound, because they sound energetic, defined, punchy, as I said, but also kind of crispy to a certain degree. I love them because they sound natural, don't you think? And you can see that over here on the higher, mid-highs are high and high register, because you get a little bit of that air, which can be seen over here. And here's a little bit the vocals, and also some of the snare action takes place here. And you can see that in here, the mids, you got a very nice representation of how intense and how well balanced the mix sounds. In my opinion, and tell me what do you think about this description, this album sounds creamy. Sounds aggressive, strong, but at the same time kind of smooth around the edges. It's not harsh. It's not a listening experience that it's comparable to something like Ride the Lightning by Metallica, which is a little bit more brighter sounding and also has no bass at all. But I don't know if that makes sense to you. Please tell me, what do you think about that? And in this case, we got a very creamy sounding, and I think it's quite easy to listen to when it comes to the sound of the mix, and also enjoyable. And this is the important thing, I think, and one of the reasons why people have certain complaints about much modern records by Iron Maiden is that they don't sound the same way as this one or this particular era of the band sounds like, and I completely agree. Because this era, I think, encapsulates the raw power, the energy of the live shows the closest. In my opinion, Iron Maiden is one of those bands that they're awesome in the studio. But once you see them live, no man, there is no way to come back to the studio versions because they're that good when it comes to live performance. My opinion, but tell me what do you think about that. Now, let's take a look at the section of our analyzer, and we got here the dynamic range analyzer. This tells us how loud the signal or the song, using much more common terminology, has been throughout time. And this is represented by a blue blob. This is important because depending on how loud a signal is, we as human beings will understand it as more exciting, much more powerful, or when it comes to going quieter, much more interesting, dark, mysterious. And in here we got that the introduction, and this being the trooper is balls to the wall since the beginning. Just punchiness, powerful, attacky, intense. And we just got this particular section on which we got a drop here, which I think is the chorus. No, it's a pre-chorus. The little section on which you got the verse. Sorry, that's what I was trying to express myself, to say myself. And then we got this huge bump in volume. This bump in volume is the chorus clearly. And why is it important? Why do you think everybody sings along to that section? Because it's so memorable, and the mixing crew, the people behind the production of this album, were intelligent enough, and I gotta say, that's the right way to do it. They pushed the whole mix louder during that particular section because it's the much more memorable part of the track, and it draws the attention to that particular part, and also makes it more sing-alongy. It's a trick, but it's a good trick. And it's something that is being done on every professionally produced album ever. And it's important. Now, let me take you to the second section, which is where we got not only the chorus, but also the fantastic guitar solo. And you can tell that the loudness that used to be our close to highest point became now the standard for the second half. Why? The track has developed momentum. It's much more exciting. We are more invested on it. And verse, clearly represented here. Now this is the melodic part, verse, and you can see that there is a bump. And also we got an extra bump, which is the chorus again, and they preserved that particular amount of energy during the fantastic guitar solo. Here is where they brought back the harmony, and I stopped the track. I want to make I want to make a point here as well, that the sound of the bass, it's a little bit mid-rangey, don't you think? It's not that deep, it's the right amount of bass, but also has this particular notch in the mid-range. Particularly, you will hear when he does the tang, 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 tang. There is a point on which you can even hear a particular resonance point. A resonance point is an extra level of excitement in a particular frequency, okay, in your equalizer. Right now, I'm applying a resonance point to my voice, and you can see that my voice changed a little bit. Get it? Good. Let's press play and finish this bad boy off and give our final takes. And please pay attention to all of the details that I mentioned. Here we go. That's rock and roll and nothing else, don't you think? Such a great track, such a fun moment in rock history. Again, the chances that I got to see them perform this track live have always been insane. And yes, I have seen them live so many times because I am such a fanboy. Love their music to the T. It's one of the 3 bands that actually shaped me as a musician and music producer and mixing engineer, and it's one of the bands that actually inspired me to pursue this as a career, for real. Again, huge fanboy, but there is a reason for it. They are great. Are they one of the best band ever? Arguably, but are they one of the most influential? Also arguably, but I can tell you it's one of the bands that I like the most. Tell me, what do you think? Do you like Iron Maiden? Do you think they're overrated? Do you think they're underrated? And what do you think about this track in particular? In my opinion, it's a little bit overplayed because it's a trooper. It's one of their biggest songs ever. And it became for a while the war cry for edgelords everywhere. But it's such a great track that I can see why it became such a thing. So please tell me which is your favorite Iron Maiden song and which is your favorite album by the band. I will tell you that on a different video because, again, huge fanboy and I have many things to say about Iron Maiden. So please tell me in the comment section down below. As usual, girls and boys, if you like to support this kind of content, the best way to do it is by listening to our music, heavily inspired by Iron Maiden, by the way, and also by following us on social media, such as Instagram and X, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us in a much more personal basis. Now, girls and boys, as every single time that I meet you, I gotta remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember, I will see you when I see you.